Oh, well, here he is.
Well, he took
Okay.
it back.
Well, he didn't. He wasn't pleased with that. So we'll get into that here. Hang on. All right. Is it going? Did you turn the mic on too? Okay. Thank you. All right. So we are in chapter 20. Now, what you have to know about chapter 20 is. Remember that there's no chapter breaks, there's no verse breaks in the originals, right? This follows directly after chapter 19. So let's look back just a second at 19. They're having the quarrel. They're having the fight. The tribes are all arguing and fighting over the king like we discussed. And out of that, while that's going on, there happened to be a rebel whose name was Chpt, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. So he's of that Benjamite tribe, Saul's people. Keep that in mind. And he blew a trumpet. Now, when they say a trumpet in these cases, they're talking about the shofar. All right? It's just interesting. I just want you to picture that in your head. They're blowing the shofar. And he said, "We have no share in David, nor do we have any inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tent, so Israel." So, he is now coming along and attempting to take the 10 tribes who are fighting with Judah over who has the best seat with the king, and he says, "Follow after me." He's attempting to bring those 10 tribes with him. We don't want David. We don't need David. By calling him the son of Jesse at this point, he's been king for how many years? He is disrespecting him, and he is calling Israel to go out and fight. So he's leading a coup, is what he's doing against David.
11 tribes, isn't he? The 10 plus the Benjamites.
He's taking all but Judah, so yeah, he would be taking them at this point, the ones that would go with him. Yep, right.
How does the Levites fit into this?
The Levites go even though they stay down there in the.
But they were spread all over, some of them in Judah and some.
They really aren't terribly involved in it, and they end up staying down with Judah, but they end up congregating down in that area. So, anyway, so every man of Israel deserted David and followed Chpt, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah from the Jordan as far as Jerusalem remained loyal to their king. So this is just following that fight, and it's telling you that now the people that had followed Absalom and Amasa and all of that group has now decided that they're going to follow Chpt. So they're arguing and saying, hey, we have 10 shares in the king. Why did you not let us call him back? Why couldn't we escort him across the river? They're the first to turn and say, well, we're just going to go with Chpt. We like him better. And
if they even knew him.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
One.
He is the one who calls them out. And so you can see that the loyalty is really fractured and frayed at this point, because they're following whoever, like Jane says, they're following whoever's yelling the loudest, and this guy seems to get their attention. So Judah doesn't follow after him, but the rest of them do. Question?
Is this the first time we hear of this Sheba?
Yes.
This is the first-
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a rebel, so he's probably a charismatic guy who was able to call the people. So every man followed after him. Now in verse 3, now David came to his house at Jerusalem. Okay, this is a little parenthesis story, to it. David comes to Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and he put them in seclusion and supported them, but did not go into them. So they were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. These are the 10 concubines that Absalom raped on the roof in the view of the people so that he could claim the kingship. This was what was supposed to put the division between Absalom and David that could never be healed, this rift. And so these are concubines that David had left there in Jerusalem when he fled.
He didn't want him anyway.
I'm assuming that he thought maybe they would be okay, but if Absalom comes in and he's already raped him, Absalom probably would have killed him. I don't know. So they seem...
He said he was leading them to keep the house.
Yeah, they're keeping the house clean while he's gone, because who wants a dirty house, right?
Here in the house.
So he leaves them there, and so he comes back, and he knows that these are the women that have been defiled, so he can't go into them. And the king's harem cannot be given to another man, so he can't give them to someone else. So basically, they have nothing. to look forward to. Question?
So once they've been raped by Absalom,
The king is not going to. They've been defiled to the king.
Used.
They're and more so than we think. More so than we think today of how awful that is when someone is taken against their will and raped and then they're defiled. This was more of a political statement in that Absalom had done that in order to claim them. He could not take them back at that point, even though it was against their will. No, it was against their will.
Some of them might have been pregnant.
And so you can't. They
wow.
it just can't be. It just can't be done. And so, and again, you can't give them to someone else. So it's not like they could go find happiness somewhere else. So these women very likely were put into one area, separated. They were cared for. They were given food and shelter and cared for, but they were kept in seclusion. So they did not attend the king's table. They did not go to social things. They would have lived their lives in seclusion until their death.
well, hopefully they liked each other.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Really?
I don't know how
Because
many
that's
they
all
got
they would
along.
have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how many women can live in the same household together.
10.
Yeah.
10.
They did, but did they get along?
Yeah.
Speak to the Mormons. They, you know.
Yeah. So, the king says to Amasa, assemble the men of Judah for me within 3 days and be present here yourself. Amasa has taken Joab's place. Judah has stayed loyal to the king. So he's telling him, all right, bring everybody back. This has to do with the whole Chpt thing. Bring everybody back from Judah and you yourself come and we're going to take care of this. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah to get them all together. This is the tribe that was loyal to David. But he delayed longer than the set time which David had appointed him. So he failed at his first assignment. Was it his fault? I don't know. It doesn't say. It could have been that Joab. He was a great guy. And so it's the first assignment the king gives him, and he fails at it. He does not show up at the appointed time. So David says to Abishai, now Sheba, the son of Bichri, oh, I lost my place, sorry. So, will do us more harm than Absalom. So take your Lord's servants and pursue him, lest he find for himself fortified cities and escape us. So he knows that this guy is capable of creating a lot of damage, which if he has 10 tribes after him, is certainly true. And he says, this could be more harmful than Absalom. So he knows, even though he has mourned Absalom greatly, and we've discussed all that in the past, he knows what Absalom was capable of doing, and he knows that they have to go after him. So he says, let's go, and we will, he goes to Abishai, not Joab. He goes to Abishai, and he says, let's go after him. Now, Joab's men. Interesting that Scripture calls them Joab's men. These are the mighty men of David, and they're not called David's mighty men or anything else. They're Joab's because Joab's the general. And these are Joab's men that have served with him and fought with him and were loyal to him. And these are Joab's men. With all the Harathites, the Pelethites, and all of the mighty men went out with him. And they went out of Jerusalem to pursue this Sheba, the son of Bichri. When they were at the large stone, which is in Gibeon, must have been a popular place. Everyone knew where it was. I'll meet you at the large stone. Amasa, okay, Absalom's general that had been put into Joab's position, I'm just making sure you remember who these people are, came before them. So he's come back now. Now Joab was dressed in battle armor. On it was a belt with a sword fastened in its sheath at his hips, and as he was going forward, it fell out. All right, so Joab has certainly not given up any of his military gear, garb, fighting stuff. Amasa may be the head guy at this point, but Joab's still doing what Joab does. And so this is giving us direction that he has a little belt on his armor that has a dagger sheath, whatever it is, a little sword at his side. And is it purposeful that he sets it up this way? Is it does he know this is going to happen? Has he hatched this plan? it would appear that he has a purpose for what it is that he needs to do. So Joab says to Amasa, "Are you in health, my brother? How you doing? How you feeling?" And he takes Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. That's a weird thing for us because we don't recognize that as a friendly gesture, which is what it was. It was one of the things men did to men at that day. They'd grab him by the beard and pull him in, and give him a kiss and welcome them. It's a strange thing, isn't it, to our culture sensitivities? But it is what was done. So it would have been a usual thing. Amasa certainly wouldn't have been surprised by Joab doing that to him. And but Amasa did not notice that the sword that was in Joab's hand. So the sword that had fallen out, Joab now has it in his hand. And when he's pulling him forward for the kiss, he struck him with it in the stomach, and his entrails poured out on the ground, and he did not strike him again. Without getting too horribly graphic, he didn't just stick it in.
Right.
Okay, so this was a death blow. This was not a warning. This was not trying to injure him, put him out of commission. This is a death blow that he is intending.
It's a slow death.
And it's going to be a slow death. So when it says, "Thus he died," we know from following verses that he doesn't die that minute, but he is going to die, and so it's because of this injury that he's going to die. So that's why that's in here. But it's a slow death, and there's going to be some more detail on that. Now Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued Sheba, the son of Bichri. So Joab gets Amasa out of the way, and then he goes with his brother, the one that David gave the instruction to, and they go continuing to look for Sheba. Why are they looking for Sheba? Because he is attempting a coup against the king, showing their loyalty for King David, right? They are loyal to the max to King David, which in Joab's mind may be why he did what he did, because no one is going to serve the king like Joab in his mind.
Well, and Sheba is part of the truth, the ones that went after Sheba.
Absalom, you mean?
Absalom.
No, Sheba. All of the 10 tribes are following Sheba
Right,
now.
right,
And Amasa had been the general for all of them before.
right. Good point. So Joab sees himself as David's protector, and everyone, including Amasa, is in the way of doing what needs to be done. This is Joab's thinking. I'm not saying that's the correct way of thinking. I'm saying this is Joab's thinking for doing what it is that he's doing. Get him out of the way, because no one is going to take care of the king the way I take care of the king. And so he performed this grisly act.
Well, you wonder why Amasa didn't, why he was delaying. What's with that?
Well, he was trying to rally the troops of Judah, is what they say. We don't know. We don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, in verse 11, one of Joab's men stood near Amasa, who's on the ground, and said, "Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, then follow Joab." So this is one of the mighty men calling the people to make a decision. If you're for David, then you're for Joab, then follow Joab. And
They saw, they
yeah,
witnessed that he killed.
yeah, Amasa. And so they see it for what it is.
Yeah,
David
that's
is
why I
man
was
all
saying.
along.
They see it for what it is. And but in 12 it says, "But Amasa wallowed in his blood in the middle of the highway." So this is a very bloody death. And when the men saw that all of the people stood still, why are they standing still? Because this is a shocking thing. And the man is laying there, and he was the general, and David had put him in that position. I'm assuming there's a little bit of shock and unsurety about what needs to happen at that time. So he moves Amasa from the highway to a field, and he throws a garment over him. And when he saw that everyone who had come upon him halted. So this man wallowing in his own blood is slowing down what they need to do. So they're going to get him out of the way, get him over into a field throw a garment over him. I'm not sure he's dead at this point, but he will be soon. And that's kind of what it is, and then you move on. This is the way the military battle went. Now, when he was removed from the highway, all of the people went on after Joab to pursue Sheba, the son of Bichri, the rebel. So when they got the man out of the way and people didn't have to look at him, they seemed to forget that he got killed, and they're going on with what it is that they're doing. And he, or Joab, went through all the tribes of Israel to Abel and Beth-mahan and all of the Berites, so that they were gathered together, and also went after Sheba. So he comes to the town of Abel, and that's where Sheba is, and they're looking for him. Then they come and they besieged him, or they cornered him in Abel of Beth-maachah, and they cast up a siege mound against the city, and it stood by the rampart. And all of the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. So they're coming after Abel, and they want Sheba, and they're just going against the gates and the wall of the city of Abel. Then a wise woman cried out from the city, "Here, here, please say to Joab, come nearby that I may speak with you." How she could be heard over all of that noise, I don't know, but she was. So she speaks out and says, I need to speak with Joab. I noticed that anytime they introduce her, they call her the wise woman. So we have to take it for what it's worth and know that she was a wise woman. And when he had come near to her, the woman said, "Are you Joab?" And he answered, "I am." And then she said to him, "Hear the words of your maidservant." And he answered, "I'm listening." And so she spoke, saying, "They used to talk in former times, saying, they shall surely seek guidance at Abel, and so they would end disputes." So what she's saying there is, hey, the reputation of our city is that if you need guidance, come here. There are wise people, so you've come to the right place to figure out what needs to be done. I am among the peaceable and the faithful in Israel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? So, what is the inheritance of the Lord? An important city, part of Israel, part of the land, part of the inheritance that God has given to the people of Israel. Joab, I'm a mother of Israel. I'm one of the women, the aged, wise women of Israel, and this city is known for its reputation. Why would you come and destroy all of this? Go against exactly what it is that God has for his people. And Joab says in verse 20, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. So it appears from this that whatever it is that she said made an impact on Joab. Because he really is going to swallow up, and he really is going to destroy, and that was the plan, and he would have done it had this woman not intervened. But when she brings it to his attention, what it is that he's doing, he seems to respond to it and say, that double time, remember I've told you when you see something twice in a row, it's important, pay attention. Far be it from me, far be it from me. That is not what I want to do. That is not so, but a man from the mountains of Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against the king, against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. So the woman said to Joab, watch, his head will be thrown to you over the wall. So she knows where he is. She knows she can go get him. She knows she has influence with the people, and she knows that she can make this happen. Then the woman in her wisdom went to all of the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and they threw it out to Joab. Then he blew a trumpet or a shofar, and they withdrew from the city, every man to his tent. So Joab returned to the king at Jerusalem. So she did exactly, she came through with her promise. The head comes over, that's all they wanted. They really didn't need to destroy the city and do all of that. The interesting part of that verse to me is the last line. So Joab returned to Jerusalem, to the king. And I'm thinking, what was David's reaction when Joab comes up? I don't know if he has the head or whatever, but he's taking care of the Sheba problem. Where's Amasa?
Just started say, does he-
Where's Abishai? Because he gave the direction to Abishai earlier on. Where's Abishai? What is Joab doing back in this position? How much had David heard? I don't know, but it's interesting to me. I always like to think what that response would be when he comes back into the city. Let's say he had the head, and David's like, well,
What's
I
going
don't
on?
really know how that happened, but this is great.
He would probably didn't even know who it was the head of.
Well,
He probably didn't know.
he knows that they're coming back with Sheba's head, and that they're going to that's why they're out there. So if they're coming back proud with a head, it's Sheba's head. So this is how someone was it Mom or someone earlier said how did Joab just get back in there again?
Yeah.
Okay, this is how Joab gets back in. He just sort of
He just comes back.
takes that position back over again. He's now once again the general of
I
David's
don't get that.
army.
He assassinates
Well,
everybody.
killed
what?
his
Assassinates
competition.
everybody.
He assassinates the competition. That's an effective way of staying in
That's what
the
happens
position.
in other countries. We've seen that.
Yeah. Yep.
Abishai is his nephew, right?
Abishai,
It's his
So he
And-
would
Well,
say,
isn't he
I
Joab's
think I'll
brother?
give it to you.
Abishai and Joab are brothers. She's talking about nephew to the king.
King.
Oh.
Yeah,
They're
so
nephews to the
he's
king.
Family probably backs off a little bit.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it, to see that Joab just sort of takes it back. David doesn't give it back. Joab takes it back. And then it just gives us a few verses that talks about the restarting of his administration. Remember, he's fled the city. He's gone out. He's been in exile for a period of time. He comes back now and begins to put into position some of these people into key positions of his administration. I think that's in there not only to introduce these people, but to let you know that things are now going to begin to be on a normal way the kingdom is run. The administration, key people get put into their positions. That's how an
Joab's
administration.
the one that put all these people into this position. Is that right?
Well, he would no. Joab is not going. He's the leader of the army again, so he's the key guy there. But David's going to
David's going to
reestablish
Okay.
his own administration, and it just tells us who these people are and what positions they're in.
Do we
Any
know
questions?
What happened to Abishai?
Abishai is going to continue to be around. So,
But in this
you mean how he?
instance,
I think he just acquiesces to Joab. I think Joab is always in that leadership position, and everyone acquiesces to him.
If not.
Yeah, you don't want to face the consequences if you don't.
But that's it. I mean, you can't.
It's his brother.
I wonder. That's his brother.
It is his brother. It is his
Why he
brother.
wouldn't- I mean,
If Joab's the older brother, the younger one's probably always, followed the leader and would
he's
easily
right
say,
no matter what he does.
Let's be
take
clear.
over
As
again.
much as we find Joab's behavior distasteful, and we look at it and just say, I wouldn't want to invite him to a dinner party at my house. He is effective in what it is that he gets done.
He's powerful.
He is loyal to David. He always has David's back. He seems to be able to say and do anything he wants to say or do, because remember, he's the one that goes to David and says, you need to shape up and quit mourning about Absalom, or the people are going to leave you, including me. So he has the king's ear.
Well,
And he
the king
leads.
is so wishy-washy that he's the strong
Yeah.
one.
He
During
certainly
that time,
is
he was.
able to do that. So did God place Joab in the right place at the right time? Did I mean, there's a
for his plan of
there's a
purpose.
lot of things that we find distasteful about the situation, that in the end there's an end result that needs to be had, and it's done, and Joab's the man that gets it done. Because this Sheba guy was bad news. He needed to be taken care of. And how sad that an entire city of innocent people would have been killed if they had besieged the city and gone in there. They would have just randomly killed people thinking they were hiding him or whatever happened. All of that was they were able to stop because they were able to throw the head of Sheba over there. That's really all that they wanted. So I don't know. I mean, there's a gray area there, right?
Well, we get the whole picture.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the whole picture,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But we see the whole picture now, so we see the good Joab did, even though it looked horrible at that moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we just have to keep in mind that Joab's doing what Joab does well, and it's working out for David. Even the Absalom situation.
Abishai didn't seem like a strong leader.
Abishai, he's also very loyal to David, and he's part of it. But he
has the leader personality.
he always acquiesces to Joab,
To his
doesn't he?
brother,
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just interesting how God uses them in that
Older
way.
brother
All right,
follow
can you share
their
You still
life.
have three verses.
Oh, well, I just sort of put it together. So Joab was over all of the army of Israel, and then it just lists Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the
You just didn't want to say
Harites, and I didn't want to say it, and the Pelethites. So it's just talking about all of these names and who's in position. They're not really Zadok and Abiathar. They continue to be the priests, so let's just we know them. The rest of them are new names for us. All right, can we turn that off for a second? And the next one is exactly.